Today we're going to get into an update on the Project Sui network. You guys, of course, have heard us talk about it a lot. I think you're going to like it. We've got a special guest. Stay tuned right here. My name is Paul Bear. Welcome back into Tech Path. I do want to thank our sponsor today, and that is Uphold. Uphold is a great place for you if you're brand new to crypto. They've got a great website, and they manage the ability to go get the best rate for you. In addition to that, you can also earn up to 4.5% APY on your US dollar balance there. So very easy to get involved in Uphold. Use our link down below. You guys will get some special offers, and it helps the channel. So we do project updates from time to time. One of our channel partners, Sui Network, which we've talked about quite a bit, is going to be joining us today. It goes right in line with some of the things that are happening kind of front of the news right now. We covered this topic yesterday. It was this one right here. If you guys haven't checked this video out, go watch it. But basically what's happening right now is a lot of pressure on centralized social media platforms. Meta was on the grill yesterday. And one of the things that we, kind of recommended up was the idea of a much more secure privacy element layer to what's happening out there within social media. That will be a big deal. And then, sure enough, Vitalik came in and put a statement in around the Ethereum Magician's website, privacy of on-chain payments, partial anonymization of on-chain activity inside apps, which I think is going to be a big deal. And then privacy of reads to the chain, RPC calls, etc., and then network level anonymization. So the point being is that blockchain is now being looked at, as we already know, that could replace a lot of the problems that exist with social, where it could decentralize it. And I know you guys are working on a project called Seal. Talk to me about how that could potentially be utilized in, say, a social media that is decentralized.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, it is absolutely right that if we're serious about replacing a lot of the Web 2 experiences people have, with experiences where people have more control and, own their data, etc., we also have to provide equivalent kind of privacy protections. Like, people are not comfortable doing everything in public, be it payments or social activity or whatever, right? So
Right.
This is very much on our agenda. Now, Seal is part of the answer to that, right? So Seal offers the ability to actually interact with private data on blockchains, right? And what is the main problem, right, with private data on blockchains, right? It is you can always encrypt data, but then you actually have to do the key management, and you actually have to make sure that the people who you want to be able to read the data are able to actually get the keys to read the data. That's really the fundamental difficulty. If it was just data for yourself, you'd encrypt it, there would be no problem. But you want to share it. You want actually to be social. And this is really where Seal comes in. Because what Seal allows you to do is to encrypt data, but then define logic in smart contracts about who and under what condition has the ability to actually access the plain text, the actual content of that data. So what does that allow you to do, right? It allows you, for example, to encode your social graph on-chain, on Sui, and then say things like, well, only if someone is my friend, so has a kind of an NFT denoting that is my friend, they're allowed to actually see the content I post on my feed. Or you can say things like, only if they pay $10 for access to an article, then they get an NFT that allows them to read the articles that I post for a week or a month or something like that. So Seal allows you that flexibility of accessing data and determine who can access the data through basically logic on chain, which really bridges the gap between privacy and blockchains.
So George, when you look at rolling something out like this, because it looks as though we're going to see a lot of need in the space right now, we've talked quite a bit about TikTok, the likelihood of that becoming a U.S. company that's going to need a new technology stack. I know Frank McCourt and his team have been thinking blockchain for quite a while. How quickly would Seal be available to deploy and actually go out and start doing some of the jobs that are needed, especially of this Web 2 to Web 3 transition?
Yeah, it's pretty quickly, I would say, in the grand scheme of things. So a kind of testnet version of it is already available today. So you can go on the Sui testnet. It is augmented with key servers that understand the Seal protocol, and you can already start programming and trying it out. And our plan is to release it in a mainnet version on the Sui mainnet for prime operations over the summer. So it should actually be a relatively short turnaround, at least for some initial experiences to use technologies like Seal.
Okay, so quick to the market, which is good. And for you guys listening in right now, I know sometimes when we get engineers on, some of this stuff can be a little bit complicated, but really what is required, if you think of this almost like SSL, privacy within Web 2, that has been the problem with Web 3 and the idea around blockchain. Blockchain, of course, very open, very transparent. If you understand how to track addresses and wallets, you kind of can paint pictures out there. So I think this is a solution that definitely is going to be a big one. Another one that you guys are working on is Walrus. To me, this is the killer app of Sui, because I look at this and I think, man, when you compare what we need right now in terms of storage, just the ability, this is a good example of Arweave, Filecoin, ETH storage, etc. First of all, why do you think that those other projects did not go the route you guys went in terms of real storage online and how it can be used within the blockchain?
Yeah, so just for the benefit of your audience, right? Walrus is a decentralized storage network. As it turns out, you can store a few things on a blockchain, but they're very small things. You cannot put pictures, you cannot put videos, you cannot put big web pages or anything like that. So Walrus is a system that allows you to put in a decentralized network like a blockchain these bigger things, so that you can actually have rich media experiences on the Web3 effectively. You can host whole websites, you can host the images, the videos, or the assets sometimes that are digital behind some NFTs. So why is Walrus different, and I would even dare say better than previous systems, right? I mean, first of all, we learned a lot from how previous systems did a lot of the things they did. And previous systems had a fundamental limitation, which is that they were building on the blockchain technology of the time, I would say, right? So they came along with the first kind of generation of blockchains, and they had some of the limitations of this first generation of blockchains: lower throughput, lower finality time to actually do anything on the chain, and higher costs, most importantly, right? We built Walrus quite differently, right? So instead of building a whole web chain from scratch, we largely used Sui as a blockchain to coordinate all the activities of the Walrus network storage nodes, right? So all the tokenomics are on Sui, all of the life cycle of the files you upload, they're all on Sui, and you can interact with them with smart contracts, which is pretty cool, right? You can build very complex things there. And then the only job we had, which is a simpler job than every competitor had to do, is to just find a very efficient way of storing files on storage nodes. All of the management is already done, so the question is, how do you store files on storage nodes? And we hyper specialize on solving that problem, and we found some very good solutions that make it much cheaper to store a file on Walrus than on alternative solutions, while at the same time maximizing how resilient that file is to failures. So up to about a third to two-thirds of storage nodes on the Walrus networks can completely disappear, and you're still able to retrieve your files. That's much superior to most competitors out there.
Well, and also in looking at how you guys are doing this, from an architecture standpoint, I mean, it's very early, obviously, for Walrus right now. I know you guys just released. I was looking at Walrus Scan right here, showing the number of projects that are being stored, but also you've got websites that are actually hosting on Walrus right now. How is this done? I mean, can anyone host a website on there, even if it's a Web 2 design site, or does it require a special component for integration into Walrus?
No, absolutely, you're right. The killer app of the internet is the web, right? So it was a very natural thing for us. Once we created a system to store bigger things, right, pictures and web pages, etc., to actually allow anyone with a web browser to be able to access them, right? And what happens when you actually go to a website that is hosted on Walrus? Traditionally, when you go to a website, you put basically the address of the website on your bar, or you click a link, and then it goes to a single machine that hosts these images and these pages and gets them and brings them to your browser. Okay, that's traditionally what happens when you access a website.
Right.
With Walrus sites, what happens is your browser goes to a gateway that then reads directly from Walrus and then basically sends you back the web pages that are rendered as a normal website. But the interesting thing is that anyone can run a gateway like that. You can even run your own local gateway, which means that these websites are extremely resilient to a particular piece of infrastructure falling down or a particular provider, suppressing them. Now, how can you actually make your own website that lives on Walrus? It's very simple. We have a site builder tool. You point it to a directory full of your normal kind of like HTTP files and images and web resources, and boom, there will be a website in there. You then go and buy a SuiNS name and you point to it, and now everybody can basically access it. For someone who's technically savvy, it's an operation that takes about half an hour to learn how to do this thing, and then a few seconds to do it.
Well, and I think, would this solve some of the issues of DNS attacks? You know, when you look at the structure right now of what's happening on Web 2 and the challenge that I think a lot of websites that end up getting to be very popular is they can, essentially be attacked, from a variety of reasons, but DNS attacks are pretty common. What about that?
Yeah, we would like the technology stack behind SuiNS and Walrus and Sui to be used for these purposes. I cannot say that right now all the functionalities are there to prevent all of these attacks, but there is something quite groundbreaking, if you want, right? You mentioned to your viewers earlier about TLS SSL, like the little lock that you have when you encrypt, your communications. Now, what does that do, actually? It certifies that you're talking to the right party on the internet, and it's the one that is giving you basically the web pages that you can see. It doesn't actually tell you anything about whether that party gives you the right web page or the same web page that it gives to someone else, right? Now, the promise of technologies like Walrus sites, is that once you basically start accessing a site, you know exactly what you're meant to be receiving. There is a very high degree of authenticity of all the data, as well as integrity of all the data. So you know both, what you're expected to access and who was expected to actually upload it and attest that it was correct. So in theory, there is the potential to have a much more high security kind of experience, because now you are able as a browser, in theory at least, to make sure that you are displaying exactly the thing that the publisher intended to display. Now, sadly, modern browsers don't do these checks because they're not aware of Walrus facilities to do that, but one can foresee other browser extensions or browsers of the future that really take into consideration this and indeed eliminate a large number of attacks that include intermediaries effectively injecting malicious pages and trying to phish you or trying to mislead you in some way.
That's where I see, the use case of Web3, because it's very early right now. I think for a lot of people, they understand our show is really about this cutting and bleeding edge technology that's being advanced forward right now in Web3 and blockchain. But I do agree. Now we're finally seeing, at least in this last 12 to 18 months, finally seeing some real solutions that could be utilized to help leverage, where we are today in Web 2 to where we could be, in Web 3 in the next 3 to 5 years. I think the reality is now here. Let's talk quickly about some of the partnerships that you guys have implemented. Claynosaurz, which is a Solana project, joined you guys. And Claynosaurz, huge NFT, they're doing a mainnet launch with you guys. If you guys don't know much about the Claynosaurz brand, we've done a handful of videos on it, so you can search just Claynosaurz on our channel. But this in itself is a pretty big win for Sui and Walrus. Do you think we're going to see a lot more projects coming this way in terms of being able to host NFT projects? Yeah,
first of all, we are delighted to be partnered with Claynosaurz. It's a very interesting set of collections that they have, and it's a very popular project. And really, their partnership with Walrus illustrates the fact that Walrus is an infrastructure for the whole Web3.
Right.
In many ecosystems, from the Ethereum ecosystem or the Solana ecosystem or the Cosmos ecosystem, there is a need to actually store bigger chunks of data, if you want, with the same guarantees that you would if you were storing them on a blockchain. And this is true for NFT content, chain history that has to basically be there for auditing purposes, or actually the front end of dApps that take the form of websites, right? And Walrus really is there to serve the whole community. It's not just a Sui-only project. Projects from other ecosystems are very welcome, and we build for that purpose to actually use Walrus to store their assets securely.
This is going to be, I think it will start to open up an opportunity, especially if you look at someone like the Claynosaurz team, understanding the use case of this. It could really go mainstream, especially as NFTs get a little bit more integrated. It seems like it's unlimited in terms of what the opportunity is for Walrus here. This is going to be interesting to watch, just the growth of where this is going, and also I think the creative nature of what we're seeing now, starting to utilize the tool set. Let's talk about SuiPlay. It's over 9,000 now on the pre-orders. That's significant to me. I look at this, where the gaming market is going, what we will most likely see in terms of cloud gaming that's happening now. We're seeing a lot more of that, the potential of that. And now you've got a little bit of a challenge within some of the importers that come into the U.S. I mean, there may be an opening here. What can you tell me about SuiPlay in terms of the roadmap? How are you guys progressing?
Yeah, so to us, SuiPlay is super important because it's very nice to have a surface that is native of Web3. I think that this is the most important thing to get out of it, right? It's one thing to put Web3 components in projects, but they always feel a little bit added on, right? Whereas SuiPlay for us is a device that really was built from the ground up to really take advantage of the affordances that Web3 provides.
Yeah.
What does that mean? It means that suddenly payments are going to basically be within the ecosystem of Web3. But also it means that reward schemes will be in the confines of Web3. Mm-hmm. The experiences people will be able to access are within now the scope of Web3 and everything we've been picturing. But also speaking about social and speaking also about the Walrus component, right? It means that user data now can actually take advantage of these decentralized stores and finally actually being under the control of users. Similarly, we can use our encryption technologies that are compatible with Web3, such as Seal, etc., to give users these options. So to us, it's a service for incredible experimentation about what you can do if you were to reinvent some of these experiences as being native, effectively, of the industry we want to see grow, right? So that's to us, the opportunity here and how we're thinking about the roadmap. Now, the specifics are still going to be unveiled over the next few weeks. I invite actually everybody to come to Basecamp, which is in Dubai. It's a big annual event where much more will be unveiled about the future of SuiPlay as well as its relationship with other projects. So yes, to be determined a little bit where we go next in the details there.
I'm looking at the SuiPlay updated video, so this really kind of gives you guys an insight to it. We've covered this device a little bit. When will shipping start to take place on this unit?
I am not actually sure to what extent we have announced a date yet, so I'll have to get back to you on the exact timeline for this.
All right. Well, that I think is going to be an exciting rollout for you guys. Hopefully things will get rolling over there at Basecamp. We'll learn a little bit more about what's going on with some of the gaming ecosystems. Walrus, of course, I like the fact that it's integrated into this, where it has the potential to maybe scale in some other ways, especially on the gaming side of things, which could open up things. I'm also seeing the potential of maybe loyalty platforms that could eventually utilize something like a Walrus for being able to store stuff. So a lot of opportunity out there, George, right now, for sure. It has been great having you on. We always love to get these quick updates of what's happening over at Mysten Labs and Sui Network. Thanks for coming in today. We appreciate it.
Pleasure talking to you.
You bet. All right, guys, if you're part of the Diamond Circle, congratulations. You're in one of the biggest groups out there on the web, actually really focused on Web3 and crypto, of course. Blockchain technology is really our inside track. And one of the things you can do if you're not part of it right now is just join. It's very easy and it's free. So do that. And if you're not in the Telegram group, we only have one. Use the link down below. It's in the video here. And you can get a chance to talk to me directly. I'm in there every day. I'd love to learn more about what you guys are doing in terms of the market and new projects as well. Follow me on X at Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.